All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting episode of Designing the New Dragons. Join me as we may be creating your new favorite character. So, it's been a while. If anyone didn't see my most recent video, I explain exactly why it has been so long. It may continue to be long after this, but I'm trying to get back on track. And that has worked super well, seeing as this is already a day late when I'm recording it. So swings and rubber roundabouts. Anyway, I actually attempted to record this a few weeks ago and ran into some issues and then just haven't been able to get back to it. But a few weeks ago, when this would have been more topical, I made the decision that for the second character, in honor of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom coming out, which is what the excuse was back then, I was going to create Link as a Transformer. This time, we're going to going to say that it's in honor of my Zelda RPG, Tears of the Realms. Just had its first episode this past Saturday. We'll have our second episode this coming Saturday. We're playing every week now. We used to do every other week. Now it's every week. It's super cool and fun. So definitely check that out. Twitch.tv/This is Zelda Universe TV at 9 a.m. Pacific time on Saturdays, because we all hate mornings, to be perfectly honest, but it was the time that worked 6 years ago when we first started this. So that being said, yeah, I want to create. I got this idea from when we built the last Transformers character, and I found out for your integrated hardpoints, you could put more than just weapons there, and I didn't realize that was a thing. So it inspired me. That's what this one is going to be, and we'll see what happens. So that being said, let's dive into this. Also, I have completely forgotten the choices that I made when I think I got 2/3 of the way done with the video last time before I had to stop. So we're going to be doing this from scratch and seeing if I remember anything that I came up with last time. So yes, to start off, boom, we need a Transformers character sheet. And yeah, I'm going to repeat this. In order for me to ever do Designing New Dragons and a Discovering New Dragons and something, they have to have a form-fillable character sheet or some sort of digital character sheet that I can use. It makes it significantly easier, especially for people like me where writing things is a pain in the ass. Everybody should have digital character sheets, even if if your game is meant to be played at a table. Back when I used to do D&D Adventures League stuff, where I would play D&D for 12 to 14 hours every day for a weekend, 3 or 4 times a year, sometimes 6 or 7, depending on how convention season was going. I still did all of my character sheets digitally, and then I would print them out and take them there so that it was just easier. I didn't have to write anything. So yes, form-fillable character sheets are a must. That being said, let's again follow their outline on how to create a character. So step 0, discuss with your GM and other players. There are none. This is a theoretical character, so we're doing that. Step 1, I have been avoiding step 1, which is character concept. Mostly because when I'm doing Designing New Dragons, I'm basically doing this to get a feel for the system and just kind of see what kind of weird things that we can make. And so starting with a concept would limit my ability to really feel out the system. In this particular instance, though, we do have a concept. It's Link from The Legend of Zelda. So I'm actually following that step this time. Step 2, though, I'm not following, because I think it is... There we go. I think it is backwards. Step 2 is essence score increases and skill point investments. Basically, you have 12 essence points that you can put into your 4 different essence categories. However, I find it is generally best to do that at the end because when you're building your character, when you choose your role and your origin and your influence, they may point you towards a particular essence score that you didn't realize was going to be important for this particular character. And so I just always feel better if we do the essence score and the skill point investments at the end. And that way you don't have to worry about, well, now I have to change things because I thought this is going to be a strength-based character, and now it's looking like it's going to be better as a speed-based character. So, yes, we ignore that. But now we're actually going to follow it. We're going to go with influences. So, as a reminder, seeing as it's been a while since I've built an Essence 20 character on this channel, Essence 20 characters are built of 3 different things that we can actually relate to D&D 5e, because this did start out as a 5th edition supplement. The Essence 20 system started as a 5th edition supplement that eventually turned into its own thing. And the idea of how characters are built in D&D 5th edition is the same way that they have been built since not quite original D&D, but definitely 1st edition and advanced Dungeons and Dragons. You would choose your race, your class, and then starting with 4th edition, they introduced the idea of a background, or basically what you did before becoming an adventurer. And that's kind of like what we have here. Your origin is effectively going to be your race. Your role is effectively going to be your class, and your influences are going to be your background. But one of the things I like about the influences in Essence 20 is you can take multiple. So I generally always try to take 2 because that will give me some benefits, and it also gives you a hang up, and I like that. So let's look through our influences. So if we're thinking about Link as far as the many iterations of Link, because almost every Zelda game has a new Link, with a few rare exceptions. Fun fact that a lot of people don't know, the Link from the Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons games, a lot of people assume that is the same Link from the Ocarina of Time, the first Zelda game for Nintendo 64. It's not actually. The Link that goes that you play in Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons is actually the same Link that you played in Link's Awakening, the first Game Boy game, and that is the same Link that you play in A Link to the Past. So the A Link to the Past Link has the most games that he's actually in. He's in 4 different games. So if you're looking for the Link that we have the most idea of all the different things he can do, it's the A Link to the Past version. Every other Link has had maybe 1 or 2 games. So, yeah. That being said, the background of Link a lot of times, like if you look at The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, and then also the Minish Cap, is Link actually has an uncle in both of these. In the Minish Cap, their uncle is actually a blacksmith. In A Link to the Past, I don't know if it's ever explained who your uncle is in that. But it is implied that he was part of the Knights of Hyrule, because that Link is a descendant of the Knights of Hyrule. But the idea of Link having a connection to a blacksmith or something around there is not a huge far-fetched thing. The other thing that shows up every so often is in Twilight Princess, Link is a farmer, effectively. In Skyward Sword, he's actually trying out to be part of the Knights of Skyloft, so he's effectively trying to be a knight. That's the same thing in, as much as this is non-canon, the first Hyrule Warriors, he was attempting to become a knight and things like that. So the idea of him having some sort of connection to a group of protectors of some sort actually makes a lot of sense. And I'm trying to see. So for let's put that back out. For Transformers, the various influences. I'll just read them off here to make it easier. So, bureaucrat, cube player, experiment, former senator, gladiator, hunter, inventor, machinist, racer, scavenger, security, war veteran, and then the hang-ups are all listed. So, I think it kind of makes sense to have one of the influences be security. Just because, again, it shows up over and over and over again that Link is either a descendant of the Knights of Hyrule or is attempting to join the Knights of Hyrule or some sort of knightly organization. And that's where he gets his ability to just kind of pick up weapons and use them, which is never really explained in some of the other games. So I like the idea of security. So the perk for this, when you're surprised, you can take a move action and roll a skill test. You still can't take a standard action. So that's a nice influence perk. I'm going to put that in description right now because it's just not really good. This particular form fillable is not created super well. And so as you guys can see, it's really, really hard to read that because it doesn't let you start a second line in any of these. So, yeah, whatever. And then we'll deal with the hangups in a little bit because we're going to choose another background. As far as the second background, the idea, like if you think Hunter, Hunter might kind of fit, because even when he was a farmer, he wasn't a hunter. The other thing I was thinking about, is Gladiator, just because that would kind of explain his ability to just pick up weapons and use them. Basically, gladiatorial combat, when a lot of people think of gladiators, they think of like the Roman gladiators in the Colosseum, which was an extreme, the way that most people think about it is it was this extreme blood sport. And the gladiators were slaves, and like it was this really, really horrible, disgusting thing. First of all, that's not exactly how it was in the Roman Empire with gladiators and things like that. That's not to say that that didn't happen, but that wasn't technically the norm until the late part of the Roman Empire when it was starting to fall. A lot of gladiatorial matches didn't end in the death, but there was still blood and everything, and it was a blood sport. But the reason I bring this up is the idea of gladiators being just this horrible, disgusting thing doesn't really fit with how it's described here, and the fact that gladiatorial combat hasn't really ended. Nowadays, we call it combat sports. And combat sports have existed for centuries, possibly millennia. I'm not as familiar with that, but as long as there's been martial arts, there has been a combat sport aspect to it in a lot of places. And so that's technically what gladiator would be, is if you think of a modern day gladiator as like an MMA fighter or a boxer or even a wrestler, all of these are martial forms that take a fair amount of skill and training to be able to perform. And the goal is to defeat your opponent. And a lot of them, one of the ways to defeat your opponent is by rendering them unconscious. So, that could be something that we could do for Link here is given that gladiator thing. I'm trying to think if there's something else that would make more sense for him, though. They have machinist, which for Transformers, machinist is a doctor. I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. We could go with something like scavenger. Might make sense. Or a war veteran. I think I'm going to go with gladiator. I think that's the one that makes the most sense. So we're going to go here. We're going to go Security, gladiator, which is not an uncommon combination either. There are a lot of martial artists that get into security style work to get a more regular paycheck, because in general, if you're a professional martial artist, you generally tend to be built relatively well and look intimidating, which is kind of the primary role of security. A lot of people think security is there to guard and protect. Technically, no. Security, if you have visible security, their purpose there is to deter people before they even get to the point where you have to actually use your skills, which is why most visible security are really, really big dudes that look like they're pissed all the time. They're not actually there to fight or protect anyone. They're there to look scary, to make it look like it's not worth it to try and do any of the thing. Now, most of these people also, if they do have to throw down, can throw down. So it's not like these people are completely inept, but their primary purpose is not to fight. Their primary purpose is to look intimidating. And so, yeah, Security Gladiator, I think that kind of fits. So for Gladiator, their perk, and I think, if I remember correctly from how I did this before, I think I just used background bonds instead to do the perks. So we're going to start off with, so that's 1. We'll do that, and then let's get the other one here. So we have those listed. Really? Come on. There we go. So we've got both of those. We need to choose a hang-up. So in the Transformers RPG, instead of giving each influence their own hang-up, they will list 3 potential hang-ups you can choose. So Gladiator has Impulsive, Vainglorious, and Violent, whereas Security has Glacial, Skeptical, or Subordinate. So let's check up what these are. First things first, I have to remember Impulsive, Vainglorious, Violent. I'm not going to remember any of these. So I'm going to do, and I will erase these in just a second here, but because of my memory problems, I can't actually remember words for that long. So I just put them there, and now I know exactly which ones I need to look up. So let's go hang-ups. So hang-ups. First one we're going to have, I think, is going to be Glacial as far as the alphabet is concerned. So Glacial. Personality is cold and uncharismatic, and you struggle to connect with others. Many consider you rude or even hostile, even when you're not. You take a downshift on persuasion skill tests unless you're using the truth specialty. Okay, cool. Vainglorious. So I'm starting to remember some of the things that I did in my last one. And so one of the jokes that kind of gets thrown around constantly with Link is the epitome of silent protagonists. In every single Zelda game, everybody else in the game talks. Link never says anything other than like "hya hya huh," and effort sounds and things like that. But other than that, he never says anything. And so it became kind of a running joke that Link never speaks. To the point that in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, they actually added voice acting to The Legend of Zelda. They're the first games that have ever had voice acting, to my knowledge. I think there were like voice clips in things like Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, where like certain characters would have like a couple words, but the game wasn't fully voice acted. Breath of the Wild changed that. Tears of the Kingdom went with that as well, and everybody in the game got a voice except for Link, who is still just yeah yeah yeah. And so as much as, yes, we have 5 other things to choose, I really like the idea of him being glacial because he's a silent protagonist and never speaks to anyone. I just like that idea, and I think it fits Link. So as much as we have all these choices, this one makes the most sense. And I'm going to see if I can put just the mechanical part up here. I don't know. Again, I can't remember. I think it'll be really hard to read if I put it in there. Yeah, it's just too hard to read. If it just let me put in... Nope, it won't let me do that, will it? Alright, let's see if I can just trim it a little bit. Oops, don't want to do that. On persuasion skill tests, unless using truth specialty. Okay, so that's at least legible. One of these days, if I ever get actual Adobe Acrobat, I may just remake this and change how this particular text box works so you could have multiple lines. Until that point, we're just leaving it as it is because that does work. That requires me to do work. And this doesn't need to be there. So we got that already. So cool. So those are our influences. Pretty simple, easy. Security Gladiator, that's our hang up. And then our 2 perks we listed down there. Moving on. Next thing we do is, I believe, select an origin. Yep. So, origins. Now, again, the interesting thing about origins is they, in addition to giving you some, like your starting health and some bonuses to an essence score, they also give you your alternate mode, which is always fun. So let's look through what we have here. So we have champion, which is like sports cars, luxury sedans, stuff like that. We have cutter, which is the water mode one, which might make kind of sense because in, I think, almost every Zelda other than the first 2, Link gets some way to traverse water, whether it's the ability to swim or having a boat, and even in the original Legend of Zelda, he actually gets a raft, and Zelda 2, he actually gets these boots that allow him to walk on shallow water. So I might just, again, because we're building Link, I might go with Cutter because it gives him the ability to go on water. We'd have to figure out exactly what we want for his alt mode to be, but yeah. So let's look at some other stuff. So Lookout is basically their stealth ones. Monolith is not Link, but they're just big, like 16-wheelers and stuff like that. Outrider is kind of an explorer style thing, which I think we've already made an Outrider. Rainmaker is a tank, effectively, and then Seeker is a flying one. Which if we and then the final one is support. So if you wanted to be like a construction thing or something like that. I do kind of like the idea of a Seeker, just if we were sticking to the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom of a version, that hang glider thing that he gets, you use everywhere. But I think I want to stick with Cutter just because, again, I think it's fun and interesting. So we're going to go with Cutter. Because, again, his ability to swim has predated his ability to fly for a long time. And there's certain choices he's going to make that are not going to mimic the newest version of him. So I'm good with this. So, essence score increases. We increase strength essence by 1. Again, the way that I do this is I just add a 1 to it here. And then when we're building it out at the end, we'll know that we already have a 1 in there. And then for my origin skill, either get athletics or might. And I think... So athletics is like running and stuff like that, whereas might is your combat ability. And because Link is a very combat-oriented character, I think might is the one that makes the most sense here. We are probably going to put quite a few points into might, and might even give a specialization into like bladed weapons or something to really make him feel like Link. But that makes the most sense there. Starting health for a cutter is 3. That's another thing that I find really funny. So starting health is 3. And the reason I find that funny, in I believe almost every, if not every single Zelda game, you start with 3 hearts. Then you get more as you defeat bosses and you find heart pieces and stuff like that. But so I like the idea of starting with 3 hearts and then going from there. I think that's great. So yeah. And then languages. And I always forget languages. Cybertronian, English, because that's the one language that I speak. Cybertronian. There we go. And then English, and then I get another language for each 3 points of smarts you have. Which I don't know exactly how smart we're going to make this character, but we'll find out. And then we also have to do, for the bot mode, movement is 30 ground water. So in their bot mode, they can move 30 feet either in the ground or on the water. And their size can be common or large. Do I have size on here somewhere? I think size doesn't show up until... Yeah, we'll go down. Well, this is definitely an Autobot. So yeah, let's go down to the alt mode. So we're still going to be cutter. Alt mode gives 45... aquatic. I don't know if I spelt that correctly. And I definitely see that as... Really, stop that. Stop it. It annoys me. So, in later versions, like the first time a swimming skill is introduced is in A Link to the Past, my personal favorite Zelda. And it's the flippers and allows you to swim on water. It does not allow you to go in water. When you get to Link's Awakening, you actually get the ability to dive underwater, but that basically is just dipping your head under. However, there are a few places where you do kind of go side, instead of it being top down, it turns into side scrolling. You actually get to swim under the water. And then when you look at Oracle of Ages and Seasons, I believe they both give you some underwater aspects, though I know Ages actually has an entire underwater level and everything that you deal with. Yeah, I definitely think of the idea of when they go underwater, they go aquatic, and then just swimming on the water, they could stay in bot mode, which I'm perfectly fine with. And crew is 2. And fire points. Do I have fire points on here? We're going to call this common. So they're a human-sized Autobot. Cool, we got that. Cool. I think that's good. Yeah, origin level, we're going to be level 1. Link for right now. We'll come up with a better Autobot name in a little bit, but right now we're going to call him Link. So, yeah, that's really it. We've selected our origin, and moving on. Next is our role. Again, this is effectively your class, and the roles that exist are analyst, field commander, gunner, mode master, scientist, scout, and warrior. I'm starting to remember one of the choices I made before, and I think I'm going to go with warrior, because warriors, first of all, warriors are kind of built to be a little bit more melee focused, which I like in Transformers, and in Essence 20 in general. You do have a bit of a benefit if you're using ranged weapons, just because any melee-based character has to get close to you, and so building a melee-based character can sometimes require a little finagling. It's not bad in any way, shape, or form. I guess it's kind of the same thing as in any RPG. You do generally have an advantage for being a ranged character. So yeah, but I definitely think warrior makes the most sense, and we'll figure out their subclass in a second here. So the Cybertronian perk for the warrior is called Hardcore. When you take enough damage to be defeated, you can spend an energon point to instead lose a limb, but otherwise ignore the effect of the attack. This 100% fits, mostly because, slight spoiler for Tears of the Kingdom, but if you have seen anything about it, seen any trailers, you're aware of this. But Link has a problem with one of his arms. And because of that, he gets this nifty, cool, weird arm that can do all these nifty stuff. It's one of the main mechanics of the game. And so I kind of like the idea that this version of Link can lose an arm. So we're going to go here. We're going to go perks. We're going to go ahead and put that in there. And then because I copied it from a PDF, it keeps the spacing in there. So we have that. So that's our first perk. And then training, increase strength and smarts essence by 1 each. So strength goes up to 2 now. Smarts goes up to 1. And then roll skills, gain 1 rank in alertness, brawn, conditioning, culture, might, and survival. I think for the strength one, I'm going to go with might again. And then for the smarts one, I think alertness makes the most sense for him. Because that is a very not getting surprised by everything is very useful. And then, so I do need to put somewhere. I guess I'll put here. Trained in all weapons, qualified in might weapons. So any might-based weapon, he's qualified in. And in the Transformers RPG, that means that you can requisition any might-based weapon without having to make a roll test for it, which is very, very useful for this. So I just want to make sure we have that written in there. And then armor, all weapons, limited and restricted armor upgrades. There we go. Restricted, there we go. All right. So we'll choose the focus in a second here. I want to get the other 2 perks from this. So first we have Foot Soldier. When in bot mode, treat your speed as if it were 2 higher when calculating how many free actions you get. So we'll go here. And we'll keep adding to this until we just can't. So there we go. So we got Foot Soldier there. And then you also get Manifest Melee Weapon, which I feel fits the most recent version of Link very, very well. As a free action, once per combat, you can create an integrated energy weapon without needing to spend energon points, as long as the weapon you create is based on a standard melee weapon. The weapon lasts till the end of combat until you're defeated. So 100% that feels like the new fusion ability from Tears of the Kingdom. Again, no spoilers, but the fusion ability has been discussed crazy amounts. It's been in every one of the marketing bits for it. So if you weren't aware of that, very sorry. But it's a fusion ability and involves weapons. And then they also get wisdom through experience. And I don't have enough space there. So, what do I want to do? I think I might just Move this down and we'll go wisdom through. Do that. There we go. So that's everything for the core thing, and then we get to choose focus, either Sentinel or Wrecker. So let's figure out what we have. So Sentinel is a more defense-oriented one. Or Wrecker just breaks stuff. Well, Wrecker is a warrior who spends so much time in melee, they can tell one enemy from another by the smell of their gob exhaust. Love that. And they get this ability, Warrior Rush, which kind of fits something that you can do. So I think I'm going to go... I just think I like the idea of Wrecker, so we're going to go back up here. We're just going to call you a Wrecker Warrior. And that's alliteration. That's double W's. And then... oh, that's where that looks so weird. There we go. We'll do this, and we will just get Warrior Rush. Okay. This is a short one. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. Not too bad. And we still have trained in all weapons, so we still got all that stuff. And then the other thing you get, you increase strength essence by 1. So this is kind of becoming a one-trick pony because everything is going strength essence. So we bring that up to 3, and then we can choose either brawn, conditioning, or might. I like leaving us with 3 health because, again, the whole 3 hearts thing. So we could do might again, and that would mean all the might that we really need we've gotten from our origin and that, and any other strength that we put into the character we can use for other things. So I think, yeah, I think I'm going to go might again. I know it's cliche a little bit, but I like it. So, yeah. So that is the origin. Moving on. Now remember before where step 2 was putting out all your essence scores? Well, now we're actually going to do that. Rules for this. You have to have 1 in each category. So of the 12 we have to put out, we have to put at least 1, 2 there. So everything has at least 1. So we're down to 10. Speed, I like to have at least at a 3. Just because that gives you a movement, a standard action, and a free action. And I like having at least that much available because that mimics 5th edition and a lot of other RPGs where you get a movement, an action, and then some kind of bonus action or extra action or something like that. So I like that. So we've done 3, 4. So we've done 4 of 12. We have 8 more. I think adding 5 to this to bring us up to 8 makes sense. So that means we have 3 more. I think kind of zeroing out social and then giving smarts 4, I think is hilarious. Because again, this is a silent protagonist, so he just isn't skilled at anything involving social anything. What did I get the social from again? Oh no, I just put a point into social. So theoretically, if everything is worked out the way it's supposed to, we should have 16 essence points. So 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 4 is 8, plus 8 is 16. We're good. Now we need to choose skills for all of these. So the number of skill points and specializations you have should equal your essence score. So we should have 8. We have 3 already because we got skills as part of we got skills as up a part of character creation. So now I think so. I gotta remember the difference between brawn and so skills and store. All right, so strength. So brawn. So the measure of your tolerance for prolonged physicality. Unlike bursts of strength, brawn covers extended constant physical demands. So brawn, I guess, could be more closely related to kind of constitution-based thing, whereas athletics is more fast stuff. I think it makes sense to give at least a point in athletics and brawn, because Link can do lots of stuff. I want to have a specialization, and again, I think it's just going to be melee weapons. I think that's a little bit too broad for a specializations. That would give us anything. So we can go with because sample specializations for might. Weapon classifications. A weapon classification that uses might to attack, such as heavy swords or clubs, or weapon trait that uses it like blunt or silent. So I think we're going to go with sharp weapons. So sharp weapons is basically any bladed weapon. Anything that does sharp damage, we're going to have a specialization. So that means swords, spears, anything like that. We're going to be able to have a specialization. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We get 2 more. Intimidation just doesn't feel like a very Link kind of thing. So I think I'm going to put 1 more into might, just because, again, he is very combat focused. And then 1 more into athletics. For speed, I definitely think acrobatics is something that he should be good at because he has these short bursts of speed and stuff that he does. Infiltration is another one that he does a fair amount. And then targeting is what you would use to like fire a bow, which is a very Link thing to do. So I think having targeting in there as well makes sense. Why do you keep bringing that up? Can you guys see it? Yeah, you guys can see it. I don't know why it keeps bringing that menu up every time I click, but whatever. Going on to smarts. I think we have 4. I think adding another alertness makes sense. Culture, science, survival definitely makes sense. And then technology. I think technology makes sense too because, again, he is constantly kind of finding new gadgets and stuff and then instantly knows how to use them. So go that route. And then for social, we're going to give him animal handling because he can ride a horse. Again, I find it hilarious to just give him a 1 in social because he's a silent protagonist and the only thing he's good at is talking to animals. I think that's hilarious. So, final thing we want to do is set up our different defenses. This character technically can wear armor, so I think I'm going to wait to do this, the strength one, until we're done picking equipment and stuff like that. But the rest of them, got 3, 0, 0, 13, 4, 0, 0 for 14, and 1, 0, 0, 11. So we have that. I'm going to wait for the toughness until we figure out equipment and stuff like that. But otherwise, that is everything for essence scores and skills. Moving on. I said the next thing we need to do is choose equipment. So, as I've mentioned before, the SS20 system, more than any other system that I have played, your equipment massively changes how you play your character. Because depending on the equipment and the damage type, they all have different things that they can do. Doing something as simple as having a laser type weapon, or a weapon that does laser damage. I think that's what it's called, before I say the wrong thing. Yeah, laser. So laser weapons automatically get a stun effect as an alternate way to attack, and they can be used to spot targets, which is basically a way to aid your allies in hitting a target. You basically paint them with a laser. So just by having a laser weapon instead of just a regular weapon changes how your character is going to play. So, yeah. Let's look at this. First things first, integrated hardpoints. Every Transformer has 2 integrated hardpoints, which are hardpoints that basically work in both your bot form and your alternate form. And up until the last character I built, I always thought that meant you had to have weapons. And you don't. They actually have a specific list of equipment that I didn't realize existed because it's listed after all the weapons. And that's what inspired me to do this. Vehicle skills. So. Where are you? Support equipment. So there it is. So support equipment. So this is extra stuff that you can put on a integrated hardpoint. So what I want. So first things first. Tow cable and hook is the first thing I will want. So the reason why, and they don't have this in either Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, and it is the biggest thing that annoys me, because it's one of my favorite things in the entire game. It showed up in A Link to the Past and showed up in almost every single Zelda game since then, or something similar to it. I think in Wind Waker there was a grappling hook. Twilight Princess is either Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword. You actually get a pair of them, but it's the hook shot, and it's super, super awesome and amazing and fun. But for an integrated hardpoint, having a tow cable and hook, in your bot mode, your tow cable counts as a grappler. You can use it even if you are not trained to use a grappler. And if you're trained to use a grappler, you get a upshift 1 in your finesse or might skill task to attack with your tow cable. You ignore the athletics or finesse requirements of using a grappler. So the tow cable and hook is a hook shot, is what it is. So I'm going to put tow cable and hook. And I'm not going to put all the information in here because I just don't have enough space. Again, I would much rather, instead of having 2 alt mode things here, I would much rather cross out this other one and give me like an inventory, because all we have is like origin notes down here, and that's all the extra space. I guess we could, since this is all, I'm trying to think, no, because none of this is origin stuff. We theoretically could put these down there, but I'm going to ignore that for right now. So tow cable and hook is one of our integrated hardpoints. We have 2. The other one that I thought was interesting, so the loader, which is basically, you've got a truck bed on your, in this particular case, the loader, you have a truck bed on your sub, or whatever we're going to call for links. But for the bot mode, when you convert, you can choose to benefit from the same bonus you have in alt mode, or you can choose to use the loader as a shield, which adds +1 deflection to toughness. So loader is a shield, and in your bot mode, and Link most definitely has a shield. So the second thing, and this is going to be integrated, and then we're also going to go loader, which is going to be integrated. On the loader for alt mode, your brawn counts as shifted up 2 when calculating your carrying capacity, and you get upshift 2 on might skill tests to shove objects and creatures. So you theoretically can use that, or you can have a shield. And I just love the idea of this link has to have a shield. So yeah, we're not going to fill any of the rest in. We still have a few hands of stuff to make, so let's get some other stuff. We have to give him a weapon, like that just has to be a thing. And because he's qualified in might weapons in general, that should mean that we can give him basically any might-based weapon. So I'm going to be looking at the really cool restricted style weapons. So a grappler is actually a restricted weapon. Martial arts sounds okay, cool. That binds a target, whips are common, okay, cool. Margaret, artillery cannon, missile, rocket launcher, and energized close combat weapon. Melee weapons that generate or are encased in one specific element. 1 element damage. So we could do, because that does kind of fit with the idea of the Master Sword, having kind of an element to it, because it does, Sword of Evil's Bane. I think, because again, we can have. We're going to go electric sword. There we go. Range is reach. Hard point. Can't remember what non-integrated are called. Hard points. External. There we go. External. That's what it's called. It's external. Traits. Let's go back to our cool thing. So traits. Computerized. Interesting. Computerized element reload. If I have to reload the damn thing, I don't think I want it. Traits. Interesting. So an energized close combat weapon has to be reloaded. I think we're going to ignore that then. Bye-bye, Master Sword. Because I don't like that. Long bludgeon, short bludgeon, long blade. I think we're going to call medium blade. Medium blade. We might give it an upgrade in a second here. Still going to be external. But this does give us the trait we want, which is martial arts, sharp, silent. And that's going to be our Master Sword. Attack is might. Effect is 1 sharp damage. And there is no alternate effect. Oh, there are. So it's the alternate. So 1 sharp or downshift 1 for 2 targets. And here we will go downshift 3 targets. So you can hit 1, 2, or 3, but hitting multiple targets requires you to do some downshifting for it. So that's our medium blade there. And just thinking of some other stuff. Well, they your general what is it? Your normal loadout stuff. Standard issue. You get access to a blaster or close combat blade or bludgeon and a rifle or a shotgun. Any combination of 2 frag and concussion grenades. We're going to give him 2 frag grenades. Because those are the bombs that Link uses constantly since the very first game. So this is going to be range 2050. External. I'm going to call this traits are consumable, sharp, wrecker, which we definitely want for our bombs. And this is going to be athletics. So thrown weapons are athletics based. And then 1 sharp blast, 10 foot radius. And I can't actually spell radius. And then there is no alternate effect. So we've got our bombs in there. We've got the regular sword. Instead of the rifle, I'm going to... So limited weapons. Short blade, short bludgeon, long blade, medium and long blade, throw blade, projectile launcher. So projectile launcher is a bow. So I'm going to replace, because it does do... Oh, but it requires finesse. I don't know if finesse. Because it's a targeting, but it requires finesse. So we can go back up and see if we can't put some stuff into finesse. So I only need a D4. So if we were to... Yeah. If we were to ditch infiltration and acrobatics... Maybe even... We will reduce this down to 7. We will get rid of brawn. So we can keep that. Actually, no. Let's get rid of the D8. Let's keep brawn. And then here, we can get the 2 finesse, and then I still want him to have acrobatics. And then infiltration will just be a pain for him. And that brings us up to 4 here. And that's a little better. Okay, so now we got the finesse. We're going to trade. And technically, this isn't how requisitions work or anything, but you could go through a process to requisition what you want. I'm just going to go projectile launcher, which is going to be our bow. It's 50 to 100. It's going to be external, and it's going to be traits are martial arts, sharp, silent, sniper. We've got that. Attack is targeting. And effect is 1 sharp. And an alternate effect is 2 targets, 30 feet, downshift 1. So you can hit either 1 or 2 targets that are within 30 feet of each other. There we go. So you can do that, or you can downshift 1 to hit 2 targets within 30-foot radius. I wonder, how bad will it look if I put it in here? I guess it doesn't look too much worse than what it is here, so we'll put there for an alternate effect. Again, I would much... This whole section here is just a little bit garbled for me, because especially for alternate effects, most alternate effects require more space than just the effect. Like even here, the initial effect I think should be smaller, and the alternate effect area should be significantly larger. But whatever. So yeah, that basically gives us everything. We have his shield, we have his hook shot, we have his regular sword, we have his bombs, and then he also has a bow, which really fits most of the initial stuff that Link is able to do, which I like. And yeah, so I think we've got the character built. Obviously, we could rename things since this is my first video back, and we've just passed the hour mark. I think I'm gonna leave it like this. So, final thoughts and final review. The overall, I really like this character. I think it's really cool. We got Security Gladiator, which kind of fits what Link is. We need to pick a better name for him though. So Link, yeah, Link works for Legend of Zelda, but this is Transformers. He needs a cool Transformery type name. So for the name, let's see. We could call him just Hookshot. But I think I like the idea of his name being Hero Mode. Just because each Link, the name Link, for whatever reason, nobody remembers that the hero of Hyrule is always named Link. It just so happens that people go, oh, Link's a nice little name. We're going to name our kid Link. Nobody ever remembers Link as his name. All the various versions of Link all have names. Like, I believe the version of Link from A Link to the Past is called the Hero of Legend, because there is a legend that he fulfills. The one from A Link Between Worlds is called the Link, or the Hero of Worlds. The one from Wind Waker is called the Hero of Winds. The one from Skyward Sword is Hero of the Sky. Hero of Time is the one from Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. The one from Breath of the Wild is called the Hero of the Wilds. So I like the idea that we're going to just call him Hero Mode, his Transformer name, which kind of fits. A lot of Transformer names are just two words kind of put together. And so Hero Mode, I think, works pretty well. Again, he's a cutter because he can swim, because that's a basic part of being Link. Always got to swim. He's a Wrecker Warrior, so he can lose a limb and keep on going, and can move in combat. At the beginning of combat, he can just run in and do stuff, which is a viable option in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. He's got 7 strength, because most of what he's going to be doing is strength-based. But he also has a decent amount of speed, and some finesse, just so he can use that bow, and targeting, and then a little bit of acrobatics because he's Link. And then for smarts, he's very alert, also decent at survival, and then looking up random tech. And for social, the only thing he's good at is talking to animals. And then for his weapons, we have all these different perks that I'm not going to go through. And then for his weapons, we have Toe Cable and Hook, his hook shot, Loader, his shield, Medium Blade, his sword, Fragonate, his bombs, and Projectile Launcher, his bow. All that. I think that's what I would like. I would actually like a 3-page character sheet instead of a 2-1. And the perks, gear, and background bonds, turn that into a whole page of its own. I think that would work a lot better, and that would fix a lot of the other problems, like getting rid of the second alt mode, because you can have another alt mode, but unless you are a mode master, you will only ever have one alt mode. So I think that would be the best. Oh, and we forgot to put on his toughness is going to be 7. And then we're going to put 1 for armor because of his shield, so that turns him into an 18 toughness. So yeah, there is Hero Mode, otherwise known as the Transformers version of Link. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm glad to be back. I'm going to try and get the final Designing New Dragons for Transformers out this week. If I don't, it'll be out next week. I'm trying really hard, guys. If you're wondering why this has been so hard, check out the other video. He explains it in a lot more detail. But yeah, otherwise, that is going to be all for me today. And I will see you guys in the next time. All right? Bye-bye.